many months, I guess, because we're at point 7, almost concluding, coming to the conclusion. It's these teachings from the Tibetan tradition, which I've trained in Tibetan Buddhism, and they're called Lojong in Tibetan, and Lojong means mind training teachings. And there are these teachings that this Indian Buddhist master, Atisha, brought to Tibet. And they're little pithy instructions, pithy little verses, quotes, that Atisha kind of collected that really kind of encompass the essence of the path of Dharma, the path of awakening. But rather than carrying all these sutras, all this, so many texts, Buddha's texts, there's thousands of texts. They say Buddha gave 84,000 teachings. Some people say, like, really? I don't believe it. It's just a number, okay? It's just like meaning a lot. 84,000 teachings. And when people say, why did he give so many teachings? For the so many different minds and how people are, different, personalities, different cultures, all kinds. So the Buddha, one size didn't fit all. So the Buddha, in his wisdom and his skillful methods, saw that so many different beings, different mindsets, different ways of looking at the world, so he gave the appropriate medicine. Like a doctor. The doctor just gives the same medicine to everybody, right? He says, what's your problem? It hurts when I do this, Buddha. And the Buddha said, well, don't do that. That's a really corny old joke. It's a dad joke. But yeah, it's kind of simple, right? It hurts when I do this. Don't do that. It hurts when I hold on to things. Don't hold on. Let go. Sounds corny, but simple. But if we really look, there's truth there. So yeah, the Buddha gave all these different teachings because so many different ways that people are experiencing reality in their world. So in these teachings, Atisha here, rather than carrying all these sutras and teachings, he would just write down these little verses, little quotes that really point to the essence of the Buddha's teachings. The essence, you could say, of the Four Noble Truths. First truth, there's suffering. The second truth, what is the cause of suffering? There's a cause. There's suffering. There's a cause. What's the cause? Self-clinging. Ignorance. Ignorance. Ignoring reality. And holding on to self and how self is viewing reality. And I see this like this. I don't like this. I like this. So craving, aversion, indifference. And that's all based on the self-clinging. I, so Buddha said, that is the problem, the root problem. So these little pithy verses are to remind the practitioner to let go. And heart-mind, bodhicitta, cultivate bodhicitta, open up. Letting go of the strong hold on I. What about me? What's in it for me? What do I get out of this? And that's our work. I can tell you this is a problem. The Buddha can say this is a problem, but we have to see that. We have to see through our own experience how we're holding on to the sense of I. I've been hurt, I've been cheated, or I want that, I want more, I don't want that, push that away. All based on I. So so these teachings, mind training, are set in 7 points, the 7 points of mind training. We're at the 7th point, so we're at the last point here. And these slogans or maxims here are the guidelines of mind training. Connected, they say connected with post-meditation. Post-meditation is off of the cushion. This is our form of practice, what we did for 30 minutes. But when we go into the world, we don't leave what we're training in here in this room, Take it out into the world, post-meditation. Now what's your activity like, based on what you've been training on the cushion, your formal training of, undistracted with the breath or whatever object is, just being present. Whatever appears in the mind, not being entangled with it. Or noticing the entanglement and using the instruction, come back to the breath to bring you home. So in the world, it's the same way. We're going to be cut off in traffic. We're going to get home and, we forgot to turn the garden hose off and the yard's flooded, right? We're all like, what's our state of mind? What happens to our practice? So you should probably find somebody to blame. Who left that water on? I live by myself. I guess it was me. But if we have someone that's living with us, right? I'll go home, I'll blame my teenager. Did you leave that water on? So what happens post-meditation? This is a guidelines to, hey, you've been training with these. Mind training means to train our minds, right? Training our minds, building that muscle. The muscle of what? Of heart-mind, as Joey said, letting go, open up. Don't catch. What we're catching is really self. I don't like this. I don't want this. I want it to change. Let go. Open up. So that's the essence of these little pithy verses here, quotes. So I'm going to go through 3 here. And the first one is point 42, or the 42nd verse slogan. There are 59 verses, 59 slogans. And this one is, whichever of the two occurs, be patient. Whichever of the two occurs, be patient. What are the two, right? Remember I mentioned earlier about the weather. During the week, it's sunny, it's fine, great. The weekend, it's raining. It's like, what's our state of mind? How are we engaging with that? How are we experiencing that? So this verse kind of is related to that. Whichever the two occurs, be patient. And the two here, this little commentary here by Pema Chodron. I don't know if you're familiar with Pema, Annie Pema Chodron, a Tibetan or an American nun in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So she says, whichever of the two occurs, be patient. So whatever happens in your life, joyful or painful, do not be swept away by reactivity. Be patient with yourself and don't lose your sense of perspective. Right? Again, this big view. What's the perspective, this big view? Everything changes. Yeah, today, right now it's like this. The next moment, it's this way, up and down, right? That's how life is, right? Sometimes it's very pleasant and pleasure. We're having a great time. We're in a relationship. Oh, it's wonderful. I love her. Oh, she's the love of my life. She's great. You see that person again, what happened? She left me. Oh, she left me. Oh. Now we're down. What happened to that joy? It was dependent, That joy was dependent on this object, this relationship. So when the conditions change and this object is gone, we suffer. She's gone. There's a song called She's Gone. There's probably a lot of songs. Yeah, look at music, right? There's so many these heartbreaking songs, right? It's like, oh, she left me and she took the dog. So, yeah. So be patient. Whatever the two occurs, be patient. Wonderful romance, a few months, and then it ended for whatever. And then we suffered, right? So we look at that. What is that? That holding on. I don't like this. It changed. But It's not to dismiss it, to be indifferent to it. We can acknowledge that was an experience. Yes, that happened. We can't say, oh, it's empty. Nothing's happening. It's all illusory. So it's really hard to say that to someone who's experienced it. Even for us to say it to ourselves, oh yeah, that's right, emptiness, nothing's happening. Yes, it is, you know? Because we're humans and we have emotions, and so we have to acknowledge that. It's good to acknowledge that, but also use that opportunity to use our discriminating wisdom or intelligence and analyze the experience. What do we see through that analysis? Nothing's there. It's temporary. It changed. It was 80 degrees on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday or Thursday it was raining. It went down to 50 degrees or something like that. Change. So this instruction here, whichever the two occurs, be patient. And also related to our practice. You know, like this other teacher says here, what happens to your practice when you're extremely happy, when things are going especially well? And what happens to your practice when things are going horribly and you are not doing well at all? So the slogan is advice to be patient. Be patient. And being patient really is to recognize that things change. Right? And we experience it, you know. We don't deny the experience happened. You know, if we have a tummy ache, we know it's a tummy ache. But tomorrow, I'm sure it'll be gone. Right? Or even a cold. I had a cold a few weeks ago. Now it's gone. What happened to the cold? I always like to say also, pain is pain. It is what it is, right? But the suffering is optional. How much we suffer, it's up to us. Pain is pain. You can't say, what do you mean the pain doesn't exist? I just smashed my finger, it's hurting. Yes, but it's temporary. Right? So we can just experience the pain. But notice how much are we like complaining about it? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And we can use the opportunity just to, I've done that in my practice, just when I go, yeah, when I've had a stomach ache, just to place my attention on, interesting, all the sensations, and noticing how much more I would suffer when I would just like, complain and go through the cabinet looking for something to take and complaining to my partner, oh, my stomach, but you don't know how it feels. Just really, that's the suffering. Just more adding to it. Pain is pain. Just let it be and experience it. That's interesting. You know. So that's the patience, being patient. Not like going, when's this going to be over? But just like patient. Oh, yeah. What do they say? This too shall pass, right? This is temporary, but it's happening right now. So the advice here is to notice this waxing and waning of your inspiration to practice mind training. So this teacher really focuses on our practice. You know, like sometimes we want to meditate, go to retreats, doing our things, studying, everything's good. But then something happens that just, you know, is not very pleasant. Perhaps our girlfriend or our boyfriend leaves us, right? Or we lose our job. Whatever it is that happens that is contrary to this happiness and joy that we were feeling when we were like, you know, doing our practice. Whether it's meditating or whether it's just awareness, just an open awareness throughout our day. But something happens, just... I remember one time I was talking to a friend, we were talking about Dharma practice, and I said, how's it going? How's your practice going? And she said, oh, I've kind of put it on pause. I'm just going through some things right now, and I'm kind of I put the Dharma on pause for right now. And I was kind of like, wow, how can you do that? I wish I don't wish I could do that, but I remember one time early on when I started practicing, where I did kind of want to turn off, the awareness of everything, but I couldn't. How can you? You're just aware, and just your awareness is open, and you notice how you're just adding to whatever experience, unpleasant experience, just rather than just experiencing pain, you're adding suffering to it. I noticed that, and I said, what have I done? I can't turn this off. Like once you become a practitioner, and really, this is your path now, you can't turn it off. Because even when things are uncomfortable, the awareness is there. You're aware that you're uncomfortable, and it hurts, and it's painful. So the instruction here is, with practice, when it's going good, enjoy it, but don't hold on too much. Don't hold on so strongly. Just kind of like, all right. And when things aren't going well, notice, where did your practice go? And then the next one, there's a quote here I wanted to read actually. In this other text here, it's Lojong translation by Tralag Rinpoche, Tibetan master who passed away some years ago. He says, mind training practice is not just about trying to survive the rough patches in life. We're trying to transform ourselves into better people as a direct result of our experiences. Direct result of our experiences. So that means a good experience and the rough experiences. That's like really the juicy, that's where where the rubber meets the road. When things are nice and easy, fine, great to practice Dharma. Everything's just pleasant, But when things are kind of rough patches, now what? But that rough patch, that is where you put the analysis, analytical practice. That's your placement for your attention, the chaos, the shit that happens in life. And you, rather than ignore it, but that's when we say ignorance. Cause of suffering, ignorance. Ignore. We're ignoring. We turn on Netflix and binge for 12 hours. Not realizing that the problem's still going to be there. We have to work with it. Or we, take something to blur reality even more. What happens when the effect of whatever we took goes away? Back to square one. We still have to clean the room. We still have to make the bed. And all this is our practice. We have to see. There's friends of teachers who point to the exit, but we have to go through the exit. The exit's right there. We can even go and open the door. But some of us won't go through that exit. Hold on. But I'm suffering. Yes, here's the way out. But this suffering defines who I am. That's holding on to the self. Even though it's like something uncomfortable, we hold on because we believe it defines us. It's my pain. This means I exist. So the next verse here is, observe these two even at the risk of your life. Observe these two even at the risk of your life. I know you're thinking, what are those two? So Pema Chodron says here, the two referred to here are your refuge vows. The vow to take refuge in that which is not based on ego gratification, but on the open, unbiased nature of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And the second is your bodhisattva vow, the vow to use your life to awaken in order to help all beings do the same. So these teachings are from the Mahayana Buddhism. And the Mahayana Buddhism is really the emphasis is the ideal to train as a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva, bodhi again is awake, and the sattva is a being, so an awakened being. That's not the goal, but this is like what we practice in the Mahayana Buddhism, is to become an awakened being and an awaken for the benefit of all beings. Awaken to liberate others, to help others. This is a bodhisattva vow. So observe these two even at your own risk. The first is your refuge vow. So it has the refuge vow in Buddhism, some of you might not be familiar, in the Mahayana, an important practice is to take refuge. Even in the earlier Buddhist schools, you're taking refuge. What does taking refuge mean, right? It's like you're taking shelter, you're taking refuge and protection, right? In Buddhism, taking refuge is taking refuge, as he says here, in the three jewels, which are the Buddha, the teacher, the Dharma, his teachings, and the Sangha, the community of practitioners, us here. So taking refuge in the three jewels, taking refuge in the Buddha, rather than, as she says, in our taking refuge in Netflix, taking refuge in shopping, taking refuge in the a bottle of booze, whatever it is, taking refuge in our emotions, in our suffering. This defines me. It's, yes, I'm suffering, but it's my suffering. When we take refuge in the three jewels, but really in reality we're taking refuge in awakening. Buddha means awake, right? So you could say taking refuge in the Buddha, which the Buddha behind me, right? Pay homage to the Buddha, take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. But in essence, in genuine reality, we're taking refuge in awakening, in an awakened mind. Taking refuge, making the decision to be awake as much as possible. Awake, rather than taking refuge in distraction, distracting ourselves from what's helpful, what's beneficial for us and for all beings, right? And that is the bodhisattva vow. So taking refuge taking refuge in committing to work with ourselves, with our own condition, and taking refuge. The second, the bodhisattva vow, taking refuge that I'm working on myself to awaken, to be beneficial in the world to other beings. Bodhisattva even says, may I never attain enlightenment until all beings attain enlightenment, are awakened. So that's the attitude that a bodhisattva has, an awakened being. So the tip for practice is, what would you change if you took seriously the two principles of working on yourself and helping others as the measure of your actions? How committed are you to yourself or to others? So that's a tip. Observe these two, even at the risk of your own life. Observe these two, that you're committed, you're resolved to deprogram, unprogram just how we've been functioning through this life and many, many lives from a point of view of what's in it for me. And to look, how do I want to help be of benefit to others?